Join me on the Glenn Lal Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:20 p.m. and a rebroadcast at 11 a.m. The Glenn Lal Show only on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio 99.1 FM.
Good evening. Welcome to this evening's newscast in Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Let's get to the news in detail. Amid mounting criticisms of the government's failure to audit the $10 billion expenses by ExxonMobil for the Liza 1 and 2 projects, Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lal has estimated that the money forfeited could have doubled public servants' salaries at its current rate for the next 6 to 6 years. This likely lost income is linked to a provision in the production sharing agreement which gives the government a chance, through periodic audits, to reclaim excessive spending by Exxon and its partners. This provision was to ensure that Guyana could get the maximum benefits out of its contract with Exxon, and in other words, it was a safety valve for the financial protection of the people of Guyana. The government had a duty to use the safety valve when needed. In other news, amid a shortage of fish here, supermarkets are now stocking their freezers with imported fish and shrimp from Florida and Jamaica. And while local fishermen have sought to blame the situation on ExxonMobil's ongoing oil operations in Guyana's waters, the American oil giant has downplayed this, saying impact from its operations on marine life is minor to negligible. Visits to supermarkets in the city have revealed that a number of supermarkets are stocked with imported seafood. When the first 6 months of 2019, 2020, and 2021 were compared, it was revealed that for the past 2 years, fish and shrimp production has been declining. This was seen in the recent Bank of Guyana half-year report. And moving on, police in Region 5 are investigating the alleged beating to death of a 64-year-old man from Woodley Park Village, West Coast, Berbice. 2 suspects have been since arrested, while investigators are seeking others. Dead is Baim Evans, called Lelo. The man was battered to death by several men from his village while he was trying to save his son, who was also being beaten. The suspects accused Evans of stealing a silver chain, a gold chain, and 8 silver rings. The injured son of the deceased, 21-year-old Tichan Prasad, said that he had just left a bar at Bath Settlement, West Coast, Berbice, when he was beaten by at least 5 men, whom he knew, and all were armed with cutlasses, chains, pieces of rope, and pepper spray. According to Prasad, they started to claim that they knew what his father did. Prasad said he kept telling them that he did not know what they were talking about, but this angered them even more. It was not long after that his father arrived, and in an attempt to save Prasad, the men brutally beat him unconscious. The men then wrapped Evans in a rice sack and dragged him some 300 feet away from where he was beaten and discarded him on a parapet near a trench. And now let's tell you, a robust local content legislation or policy means nothing if the right mechanisms are not in place to ensure the provisions in these documents are obeyed by oil companies and their subcontractors. This is essentially the position of President of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Timothy Tucker. Tucker categorically stated that there needs to be a local content commission in place to ensure the oil sector gets rigid oversight. He said too that there must be penalties in place for those who fail to be compliant. And now let's tell you, the Civil Defense Commission's Regional Disaster Management Center was officially commissioned on Friday in Latham by Prime Minister Mark Phillips. The facility, which is said to have been constructed at a cost of over $112 million, also facilitates a warehouse, shelter, and conference room for Region 9. The regional chairman, Brian Alicock, thanked the CDC and the government of Guyana for adding the asset to Latham. Director General of the CDC, Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, in brief remarks, said the facility will allow for items to be sourced within the region, which is anticipated to have a positive effect on the local economy. And to wrap things up this evening, let's tell you that according to the PPPC Administration LCDS 2030 draft, less than 1% of the $166.4 million that was funded through the Guyana-Norway agreement was spent on climate resilience strategy and action plan. Since the signing of the Guyana-Norway $250 million agreement in 2009, 3 of the 12 projects are still ongoing, and the chunk of the monies was spent on management of the forest. Through the Guyana-Norway agreement, the total sum of $166.4 million was allocated for the projects. A table in the draft summarizes Guyana's earnings plus associated investment income and illustrates the 12 projects under the agreement. And with that, we've come to the end of this evening's newscast. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Coming up at 19 hours 20 is the Glenn Lal Show. Tell it as it is.
Want